And let's head back to Washington, where the Department of Defense may soon have a new name. And that news is coming directly from White House officials. They say President Donald Trump will make it official in an executive order later today. And the new name he's pushing for, the Department of War. That is a title the agency last held in the late 1940s. Now, today's move will allow the DoD, government agencies, and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to start using the new moniker as a secondary title. The Trump administration already praising the decision. They argue the term Department of War, quote, conveys a stronger message of readiness and resolve. So we start there with team coverage, and standing by for us is CBS News senior national security correspondent Charlie D'Agata at the Pentagon. But first, let's get to CBS News White House reporter Aaron Navarro. Aaron, thank you for joining us today. Can you walk us through where this name originated and why the agency nixed it in the first place?
Yeah, Mugo, the Department of War was the original name established by Congress in 1789 after they ratified the Constitution. And that was the name of the agency until the 1940s, when President Harry S. Truman changed the name to the National Military Establishment and merged the Navy and War Departments along with the newly minted Air Force. Congress then renamed it to the Defense Department 2 years later. Today, this name change back had been floated for some time now by President Trump and Secretary Hegseth, as they believe it'll be a reminder of victories from the U.S. in World War I and II during that old name of the Department of War. It also comes as Trump and Hegseth have broadly criticized what they call, quote, wokeness in the military that fomented during President Biden, from pushing against pronouns being mentioned in email signatures to working to prevent transgender Americans from serving in the military.
So, Aaron, is this a done deal once the president signs the executive order later today, or when does it become finalized?
In a way, no. The executive order expected for today would restore the Department of War as a secondary title. So it can be used in official correspondence. For example, Secretary Hegseth can now refer to himself as the Secretary of War. But technically, renaming the department outright would need to be done by Congress. This executive order today does instruct Hegseth to work on that through legislative and executive actions. And we're already seeing two Republican members in Congress, Senator Mike Lee of Utah and Congressman Greg Steube from Florida, introducing legislation to permanently change the name to the Department of War.
All right, Aaron, I got to ask you about money here, because just how much would a change like this cost?
Yeah, the rebranding could be the primary cost. One example, an Army official told Congress in 2023 that changing the names of just 9 Army bases to remove references to Confederate soldiers and leaders could cost $39 million. The White House has not said their estimates for what it could cost this time to change the name to Department of War. But we know that this administration, through the efforts that we saw earlier this year at the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, have looked to the Pentagon for potential government cuts.
All right, Aaron Navarro in Washington, D.C. for us today. Thank you. Now let's bring in CBS News senior national security correspondent Charlie D'Agata. Charlie, thank you for your time. What is the view for those at the Pentagon on reverting the DoD to its former name?
Do you know what's in a name, especially in a place like this? By the way, I want to point out, it was named the National Military Establishment. An old story goes that NME sounded too much like enemy to keep that name in place, so it was changed again. So it might be true. But it really depends on who you talk to. There's a lot of eye rolls in the hallways. Others understand the thinking behind it. This warrior mentality that Hegseth has been drilling down from the Secretary of Defense on down since he got here. And there are actually vestiges of the War Department, as it were. That still stands outside our building here, our live position outside the building that marks the foundation of the Pentagon. And that might affect people inside the building long before it becomes official, as it were, before it may require congressional approval. Because, as you said, like the defense secretary might be called the Secretary of War. The briefing room, which we used to go to, might be called the Pentagon War Annex. So really stand by.
Yeah, we shall stand by, indeed. Okay, Charlie, you have got some exclusive reporting about Venezuelan fighter jets that flew over U.S. Navy ships just yesterday. What more can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so this is a story we first reported last night, that armed F-16s flew near the Jason Dunham destroyer, and a few hours later, the Pentagon released a statement saying that the Venezuelan military deployed, actually it didn't even say the Venezuelan military, but they deployed fighter jets that flew close to a U.S. naval vessel in what was described as a highly provocative move designed to interfere with our counter-narco-terror operations. And further, a warning, and this is important. So, it said the cartel running Venezuela is strongly advised not to pursue any further effort to obstruct, deter, or interfere with counter-narcotics operations carried out by the U.S. military. It's important to note the language. The cartel running Venezuela, not the government, not the president, the cartel. And that kind of language is important because this is being framed as a war against drug cartels and not against the state of Venezuela. But those lines are being blurred. Some of that's intentional. It's all part of the optics.
Wow. And before you go, Charlie, I know it's a busy day out there. We want to ask you about this. Reuters reports the U.S. has ordered the deployment of 10 F-35 fighter jets to Puerto Rico for operations against drug cartels. So what capabilities do jets like this have, and what would operations actually end up looking like?
Yeah, well, first of all, we can confirm that report. So CBS News can report that those jets are headed there. So it's one of the military's most advanced fighter jets. It's agile, stealthy, 35-foot wingspan. It can travel twice the speed of sound, 1,200 miles an hour. It's also got a very advanced weapons platform. It's 1,800-pound payload. It's got air-to-air missiles, guided bombs. They were most recently involved in the bombing of Iran's nuclear facilities as an escort along with the F-22 fighter jets that were providing protection for those B-2 bombers that dropped those deep penetrating bombs. So we understand the F-35s are expected to be in place by the end of next week. These are among the Air Force's most capable fighting platforms or fighter jets. And if this is a flex, it's a show of force, it's a pretty serious flex.
Yeah, certainly seems like it. Charlie D'Agata, thank you for joining us today.